It's time. We're down to the last 2 weeks of the MLS season. You've been riding and dying with your team since March, but this is October. This is when you start to admit to yourself that if your boys missed the playoffs, the last 7 months might have been for nothing. This is October panic and fear, but for some of us it's joy because we know that our team is one step closer to this. So is it time for you to make playoff travel plans or get those hot fire tweets ready about running your coach out of town? Whatever happens, we'll be here on MLS Matchday Live.
20 teams, 10 matches, and everything on the line. Never before have the Rapids finished as high as they will at the end of this regular season, but will it be Dallas who takes home the Shield instead?
It's a sensational goal!
The top of the East is more than just a battle for the hearts and minds of Big Apple supporters. David Villa and Bradley Wright Phillips duke it out for the Golden Boot.
It's spectacular!
With an eye towards 2017, fresh blood squares off as Atlanta United and Minnesota United determine who goes first with what's to come. But before all that, we've got a champion to crown in MLS, and the final push to the playoffs is on. We're kicking it all off with MLS Matchday Live.
The final push to the playoffs is upon us. Welcome to MLS Matchday Live here from our New York City studio. I'm Russ Thaler with a cast of seemingly thousands here today. But let's start with the panel on our main set. To my left, Matt Doyle, the armchair analyst, is here. Heath Pierce, former MLS player and U.S. national teamer as well. Adrian Heath, former head coach of Orlando City SC, and the host of Extra Time Radio. It drops on Mondays and Thursdays. You can also hear it on SiriusXM. It's Andrew Wiebe. Now, guys, we got so much to cover over the next hour in this show. Starting at the top with the Supporter Shield, we'll be talking about the teams going for the best record in the regular season. How important as a coach is it to coaches and players?
Huge. You know, you're playing for 9 months, 34 games, and at the end of it, you show you've been the most consistent and the best team. You know, I think that you underestimate this. I think you saw the reaction of the players and Jesse Marsch when they got presented with the trophy last year. It's a big deal.
All right, well, the top 6 teams in each conference make the playoffs, but is just making the postseason good enough for some of these teams?
I mean, that depends who you ask. I mean, every team sets that goal at the beginning of the season to make the playoffs, but if you're NYCFC or you're Philadelphia, it shows a step in the right direction for the organization. It shows some leadership there. But for other teams like LA Galaxy or New York Red Bulls, it's not good enough just to get there. Their aim has to be higher, at least arriving at the MLS Cup.
Well, if you go higher in the standings, top 2 teams in each conference get a bye. They get to watch as other teams duke it out just to get into the conference semifinals. How important is it to get that first?
I think the numbers say over the years that it's a bit important. That said, there are certain teams that maybe you're starting to trying to figure out your setup, or you want to get a start back in and healthy and in a rhythm. Maybe having the extra game works, and I think maybe we saw a little bit of that last year with Portland, Wiebe. They made good use of that midweek game.
Yeah, maybe that double post doesn't happen for them at Children's Mercy Park. But if you're one of those teams and 5 or 6 are battling for that, you've got to find a way to get the home game. Just 2 of 12 teams in the knockout round era have moved on. The last one, all the way back in 2012, our good friend Kalen Carr on that team. We'll talk to him later. But it's about perception, too. The competitive side is important. But you want to have a game at home in front of your fans, an opportunity to put yourself on center stage. That's what's at stake these last 2 weeks.
Yeah, big to get into that 3 and 4. As I mentioned at the top, you heard me say it. It's 20 teams. It's 10 games. We only got 60 minutes to get you ready for it. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to break down each match that's coming up in the Western Conference and also the East. Playoff scenarios for all the teams still involved. Maybe some predictions at the end of the show. And then we're going to look ahead to 2017 with the expansion priority draft. That's right. Atlanta United and Minnesota United FC are getting ready to go. We've got a huge coin flip coming up. And to that end, let's check in with Kevin Brown, the friendly foe, who's with Darren Eales, the president of Atlanta United FC.
All right, what's up, you guys? I'm here with Darren Eales. Now, Darren, there's something I've always wanted to ask somebody as they're getting ready to build a team. Like, how do you prioritize on-field sort of entertainment versus winning right away?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. Obviously, as a new team, we want to be competitive as we can from the start, but we also want to play an attractive, expansive style of soccer. So for us, the coach, Gerardo Tata Martino, that we just hired, he's someone that we brought in for that very reason. You know, he has played attractive soccer, but he's also got the best out of teams that he's worked with.
So you really don't want to have to sacrifice one for the other.
No, I think if we can, we want to sort of walk that tightrope and do both.
Now, Atlanta's a city with a very strong identity of its own. How Atlanta is Atlanta United going to get? Will chicken and waffles be available at the stadium at all times?
No, I think you will. Look, we've been fortunate with building a club from scratch, so we've been talking to our fans the whole way through, so we're excited about trying to make it Atlanta's team.
All right, Atlanta's ready. Back to you, Russ.
All right, guys, before we get to that, we got to talk about these games that are coming up. The Eastern Conference matchups begin at 3 p.m. Eastern on ESPN. Montreal Impact and Toronto FC. Adrian, what stands out to you about the matchup?
Well, Canadian derby, obviously. Toronto probably still smarting a little bit from that 3-0 defeat they had in the playoffs last year, but I'm just looking forward to see if the little fella Giovinco's back.
What else are you looking forward to in the Eastern Conference, Matt?
For me, it's NYCFC versus DC United in DC. The only loss DC has had in the last 3 months was to NYCFC. I think they want a little bit of revenge today.
Western Conference games kick off at 5 p.m. Eastern. ESPN is in Portland for the Timbers and Colorado Rapids. What other game in the West, Heath, interests you?
I'm saying FC Dallas against Seattle. You have FC Dallas fighting for a supporters shield. You have Seattle, who's been on a tear lately, also without Clint Dempsey. And I'm really interested to see which of these teams really rises to the challenge today.
All right, before we take the deep dive, it's time to get with the people. And for that, we go to the social lounge and the hosts of This Week in MLS, Susanna Collins and the one and only Kaylin Carr.
Whoa, the
Russ
one
Taylor.
and only.
Giving shout outs. Andrew Wiebe called me his friend too.
Oh my gosh, this is a good day for you.
He hasn't
This is
followed
a
me
good
back
day
on
for
Twitter
you.
yet.
By the way, guys, if you don't watch This Week in MLS, you should. It's on every Monday on MLSsoccer.com. Kaylin and I break it all down. But today, you guys, it is all about you. Please tweet us using that hashtag MLS Live Show. Give us your questions, your comments. We are also doing this hashtag battle. Our first one is we want to know who you guys think will win the Supporter Shield. So tweet us with hashtag Shield COL, Shield DAL, Shield NYC, or Shield NY. And right now, it's Dallas.
Dallas
with a commanding lead.
Somebody already tweeted back.
Yeah, look at this. It's
incredible.
magic.
All right.
It's magic what we're doing over here in the social
Real
lounge.
time.
Russ, what do you think? Do you like Dallas's chances?
I think Dallas is a very good chance. I think a lot of people would have picked Dallas at the beginning of this season. But here's Colorado, a team that I think some people thought were going to finish last in MLS. They're in first. Adrian, I'll start with you. How's Colorado doing this?
Well, I think first and foremost, you have to think that it's been a difficult couple of years for Pablo. So it's great the way that they've had a great turnaround. They look strong, they look organised, they look disciplined, and it just looks as though they've got a real togetherness at this moment in time.
And chemistry plays an outsized role in this league, I think, just because of parity. There's not the big differential in talent, and I think Colorado's been able to draw on that all year. That said, they have some very good young players like Axel Schuberg in particular, the giant Swedish central defender.
Dallas is in line for a treble at this one. Already won the U.S. Open Cup, and look, they're right there for Supporter Shield.
Absolutely, they're right there in it. They've got a lot on the line today. They're playing against a very good Seattle team that's been great as of late, and a team that I'm excited about, and it'll be interesting to see if they can continue that.
All right, let's get right into the standings and send you over to the touchscreen. We got Kevin Brown and Andrew Wiebe standing by.
That's right. This is where you want to be right here because we're looking at what could change the first trophy chase of this year. Outside the Open Cup and the Canadian Championship, Colorado Rapids, they've got it in their hands. But here are your boys just barely staying alive on 51 points. How do you feel? Third shield?
First of all, we have to acknowledge that Colorado Rapids leading this is the direct result of witchcraft. And we all know that the Supporter Shield is the trophy for gentlemen and scholars. Don't count my boys out because if the teams out west choke, both New York teams still have a shot at this.
I think Pablo, I think Oscar Pereira, both gentlemen, both scholars, both looking at the possibility they could lock this up in the final 2 weeks. Here are the scenarios for you. If the Rapids win today and FC Dallas lose, the Rapids are raising that big shiny dinner plate. They're going to be really happy about that. If either of these teams win, say goodbye to the red and the blue of New York. A lot to play for these final 2 weeks. Let's send it back to Russ and the guys.
Yeah, and Pablo Mastroeni has taken a lot of flack from some people over the way his team has gone about this business. But the standings don't lie, and Pablo don't care what you think about how they win. They just win.
This concept that you have to beat teams 5-0 or 4-0 or 3-0 or 2-0 is really foreign to me. The game of football is played to win. And a great offense is scoring more goals than your opponent on the day. That's football.
What do you think? I see you nodding your head as you listen to that.
I love it. I love it. You play to win the game, Russ. That was our moment, our MLS moment there. They know how to navigate a tight game, and I think that matters more looking towards the playoffs, why I think they're favorites to get to MLS Cup. They've had 13 one-goal victories this year. Yes, I wrote down my stats today, Russ, which is most all-time, tied for most all-time in MLS history.
You know what else helps navigating the playoffs? A goal scorer who scores goals. And I'm not sure that they have that. Last year it was Fernando Adi leading Portland. We had Dom Dwyer in 2013, Robbie Keane in 2014. Guys who score make the difference. Your best players have to be your best players, and I'm not sure that's what the Rapids have.
Don't underestimate the influence of Tim Howard and Jermaine Jones now. 2 winners, been there, seen it, done it. They're going to be huge for Colorado if they're going to go all the way this year.
Yeah, but they've been doing it without Jermaine Jones. We've hardly seen him playing for the Rapids.
But I think he's a huge locker room presence. He's a guy that when he's around, you know he has that competitive spirit. He knows how to lead those guys. And these are guys that are really experienced in Howard. And I think that having those guys around is the difference between being an okay team and a good team when you get to this point in the season.
Look, Colorado can win the Shield with a win and some help today, but the team they're playing and where they're playing, the Portland Timbers, they have to win to get into the playoffs here, or at least have a shot to get into the playoffs. Jillian Sakovits is there. Let's hear from Jillian in the Rose City.
The Rapids' worst to first Cinderella story is in part thanks to some of those new additions that they made this year, and one of those guys being Jermaine Jones. And I can tell you that we will not be seeing him back in the lineup today. In fact, he didn't even make the trip with the team to Portland. He's perhaps working his way back to decision day. That we're going to have to see. But what we do know is the Rapids will be making some lineup changes today because they are coming off of that midweek game against San Jose. Pablo Mastroeni told me that he wants to get some fresh legs in there and guys with a fresh mentality. Now, as for the defending champs, well, this is nothing new for the Portland Timbers to be on the bubble of the postseason. In 2014, they missed it by just 1 point. And then in 2015, they didn't know if they were going to be in the playoffs until decision day. And here we are, week 33, and it's a similar story. Head coach Caleb Porter told me yesterday that he's calling this game an absolute must-win. And mathematically, honestly, there's no way around it.
So I think it says everything about the group that we have. We've had some games this year where we didn't, for whatever reason, show that consistent performance. It's been a bit up and down. I think some of that's the injuries, and some of that we brought on ourselves. We weren't quite as hungry in some games. Not every game. At home, we've been very good. And so the good thing is we're at home. We don't need to worry about that last road game yet.
Now, for Portland, having this game at Providence Park today could not be more important as the Timbers are winless this season on the road. However, with that, they do boast one of the best home records in MLS at 11-3-2. So let's see if that's the difference today against the Colorado Rapids. Guys, back to you in the studio.
All right, Jillian, and newsflash, it's raining in Portland for this game today, and they could be shedding some tears if it doesn't go their way. They're the defending champs. How is Portland even in this situation?
Well, they lost a whole side of their team in the offseason with Jorge Villafana and Rodney Wallace. And those guys were so important to the team last year in providing not just width in the attack, but also penetration, working off the ball. I think they kind of underestimated that, and they haven't had anyone come in and sort of make up for it, even though I think you would argue they could have.
But I expected that's where Nagbe would step his game up. And I'm sure Caleb Porter, when you win an MLS Cup, it's easy to say some players are replaceable. When you have a guy like him who was at such a rise, thinking that this year he would take it to the next level, and I think he's fallen short of that expectation.
Yeah, as a coach, how frustrating is it to see a guy like Darlington Nagbe, who everyone can see, from the sharpest eye to the most layman out there, that this guy is world-class talent, not taking over games?
Well, that'll be a disappointment for Caleb. But for me, the most important player that they're going to have today is going to be Fernando Adi. I think that he is so important to everything that they do going forward. You know, he gets in the box, he posts up well, and people like Nagbe work and play off him. You know, it's been an inconsistent year for Nagbe this year, but he's got incredible talent, and who's to say he's not going to come alive in the playoffs if they get there.
So Portland need a win. If they're going to do it, how do they do it, Kalen?
Yeah, I think Coach got it right on the nail. You got to have Fernando Adi doing his thing in the box, banging the box. They're good at home. I think the one thing is we got to remember this team was in a similar place last year, and they were talking about Caleb Porter maybe being on the hot seat. Then they make this incredible run, win MLS Cup, and suddenly he's a genius. Now, it's always somewhere in the middle. I think he's done a great job with the team, but they've got to get hot, and they've got to do it quick.
I think Maddox might be back today, by the way, and that he was very good a couple of weeks ago. That could help.
I want to get back to Fernando Adi, and Adrian, I'm going to send you over to the board with Andrew Wiebe, because We want you to show us how Portland gets Fernando Adi involved and how influential he can be in that way.
Here in the film room with the gaffer, let's take a look at the lineup here. This is a best guess, Coach.
Yeah.
What do you see here? How do they play off Adi?
Well, I think the most important thing, they'll have the two City midfield players. They'll have Valeri playing underneath. Milano maybe could be Matix, and Nagby will play a little bit infield, I think, here, allowing some room down the side for Powell. But the most important thing for me is, can they get enough quality into big Fernando Adi and then go and work off him?
All right, let's take a look at one of these clips here. Fernando Adi doing what he does best, just a garden variety free kick, dead ball situation, knock it up to the big man, and now's where it gets difficult because you expect him to win this ball and to play off him.
Exactly. He's 6'3", 6'4". Once he gets in and around the penalty area, you don't want to give fouls away. You're going to get runners coming on the inside. Valeri's already off. And expect today, if Nagby plays in a wide area, he will make in that diagonal run inside the fullback. Little first-time touch, people coming on the edge of the box, very difficult to control.
No goal there, but Portland has feasted on that kind of service all year long. Let's send it over to Suzanne at the social desk.
Thanks, Weeby. All right, we asked you guys to tweet us using that hashtag MLS Live Show. We've got Amir131. He wants to know, what do you think of Portland's chances to qualify for the playoffs? And if they do qualify, how will they do? We're going to send this one over to Heath Pierce. What are your thoughts on this?
Like Kaylin had said, they were in this similar position last year, and they rose to the challenge, and I think they'll be able to play off of that. It's not always as easy with different personnel, but it is a feeling that they had when they were trending in this moment. They were able to, in their last couple of weeks, slip into the playoffs and then win an MLS Cup. So I think that will be what resonates within them. Well, they head into today and these.
Don't bet against Caleb Porter in October. So far, that has been the lesson of his few years.
There you got it. Hashtag battle. Susanna, back to you.
Oh, yeah, let's check in on this hashtag battle. It's still Dallas running away with it right now at 42%. We've got Colorado and New York at 21%. You guys, you got to vote. So hit us up on Twitter. We're going to take a very quick break, but stick with us because when we come back, we're going to see how it's all shaping up in the West. You don't want to miss it.
I never thought of myself as just a soccer player. I always defined myself as much bigger than that. And now I'm getting a chance to really explore some of those interests, but still be connected to the game that will always be really important to me. Soccer in my life has been an incredible way of meeting new people and making real friendships. Check it out. There are so many people that love the game. This is my opportunity to help them share their story.
The game you love in your hand. Breaking news when it happens. All the best match highlights. Real-time stats. And live scores. Hundreds of live match streams. Follow your favorite clubs. Anywhere. Anytime. The newly designed MLS app. Download for free today.
Sunday, don't miss the featured Eastern Conference battle at 3 p.m. Eastern, followed by the featured Western Conference showdown at 5 p.m. Eastern, plus live look-ins from around the league, only on ESPN.
And we're back. It's MLS MatchDay Live, and I want to hear from you on Twitter at hashtag MLS Live Show. Let me know which one of my co-hosts you think is the most full of nonsense. You know who it is. I want to remind you that we're coming back for a post-game show tonight at 7:30 after you check out Toronto and Montreal and Portland and Colorado on ESPN. And you can check the rest of the matches out this weekend on MLS Live. And remember, we'll be back next week with another pre- and post-game show. Check out everything on MLSsoccer.com. Russ, what's going on out there?
What's going on out here is we just got done talking about Colorado, first place in Supporters Shield standings. We got to talk about Dallas, and they're taking on Seattle. And Dallas is a team that still has a chance to win the Supporters Shield. Has already won the U.S. Open Cup, can win the treble if they also win MLS Cup. Oscar Pareja, And this is a guy, from a coaching standpoint, you've seen him build this thing and then go away and come back. How much respect does he have amongst coaches for what he's been able to put together there in Dallas?
Well, he's done a fantastic job.
Yeah.
And I think he's been really, really good at harnessing the younger players coming through the academy that he was instrumental in the beginning and putting really good pieces with it. I think he's done a terrific job this year, and they're going to take it all the way.
This team isn't as good as they could be, though,
No.
because they had to make the move in selling Castillo mid-season. But the thing that kills me is they never really upgraded that center forward spot. And I think if they had, this would be a team, I'm not could win the treble. This is a team that would win the treble. They're that good all around.
But I had the opportunity to see him just before I left Dallas when he was working with the youth there, and the way the young players respected them. I trained with them for one day, and they trained much harder and more precise than the first team did, and it was impressive to see what he was doing there.
The interesting point for me with this is that if Castillo was still playing, they could possibly do all the things we said they could do, because he made such a difference. He used to influence the way that you approach the game.
You can't play a high line.
No.
If you press up, you leave.
Here's the deal, though.
behind.
Castillo's not there. It's not even worth talking about. Why he's not there. He's not there, but Mauro Diaz is still running the show, and they're still pretty darn good with Diaz in the middle there.
Yeah, I mean, he's amazing to watch. The way he's able to stop, start, shiftiness. He's able to find that through ball. He makes everyone else around him look better. I think this Dallas team is able to hit you in different ways. Urruti, when he gets hot, hopefully that happens in their playoff run, is one of the top strikers. When he's a bit streaky, I think that's an issue. Barrios comes through as well. And I think this team also on set pieces is a lot more dangerous than people realize. They've got Walker Zimmerman and Hedges coming up out of the back, so they're having to do it by committee.
Well, Urruti's going to have to be good.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. And he was in the U.S. Open Cup final. They need him.
Yeah.
In big games, he plays big, but he is.
You guys were talking about what Dallas lost in Fabian Castillo being gone. How about Seattle? Clint Dempsey. He's not with them for the rest of at least this regular season with the irregular heartbeat. They changed coaches from Siggy Schmidt to Brian Schmetzer, but here they are pumping it up. How have they actually turned it on late in this?
I mean, it's been two different things, because they started turning it on when Dempsey was there, and now he's gone, and now they've become a very defensive team. Roman Torres has, I think, solidified the back line. Chad Marshall just had a monstrous month. But, talking about Seattle today, there's no Ozzie Alonso. And over the last 8 years, when there's been no Ozzie Alonso, there have not been a lot of good things happening for the
But they do have a good Nicholas Ladero, who has really helped turn this whole team around.
Yeah, absolutely. I think he's playing in his best position. I think he's connected now with Morris, who's also early in the year he was playing out on the wing, and now he's in the position that I think he's most dangerous, and he's thriving in that. And I think that connection is only possible because Clint Dempsey's out. Of course, you want him on the field, but now they're starting to find that intimacy between them.
Can you go up to the touchscreen with Andrew Wiebe and show me about that combination between Ladero and Morris and give us a good idea of how that thing looks?
I would love to.
Come into my space, man. Let's do it. Let's hit the film room here. We're going to look at a play here that looks innocuous. Jordan Morris on this left flank. He gets the ball up, but then you see him get his head up, and who comes into the frame with Nicholas Ladero?
Yeah, he's looking at Ladero right away. He knows who the man he needs to connect with are. He's obviously seeing that we've got a defender deep in the box, and he finds him knowing that this is the kind of guy, if I play off of him, he's going to find me behind that back line. I do need to note that he doesn't finish that, but I'm also looking at in the box who else is in there. That is note for concern.
Now, of course, Jordan Morris has finished plenty of chances this year as a rookie, probably in line for that Rookie of the Year award, and this is where you want him. You want to put him into these channels, get him 1v1, and I just want to know, Heath, what is poor Daniel Stairs thinking right now?
If I'm that defender, this is that oh no moment. I'm isolated. There's a lot of green behind me. I'm going against a guy like that. I'm trying to foul him. If I don't, this is exactly what's going to happen. He takes off. Not only is he explosive, but he can finish.
That's not a bad finish right there. Let's talk about FC Dallas, because their 10-9 connection is not bad as well. And Mauro Diaz, as you guys said, the magical unicorn, he's the man. We got the spotlight here on Urruti. What are they thinking right now? What's the connection like there?
I mean, what you can't see is that Mauro Diaz, he has his head down, but he's already looked up twice, and Urruti's connected with him with that eye contact. He checks in, drawing a defender out, knowing that there's space behind him. For most number 10s or most attacking players, they can't play that ball. But Urruti knows that there's enough space there to get behind him and get a chance on goal.
And I stopped it there because maybe it's a mystery to you, maybe it's not. Look where this goes. Inefficiency. That's where they have to be a little bit sharper, a little bit better. Urruti, just 8 goals this season.
Just 8 goals and a lot of chances. And when you get to this point in the season, you might get a half chance in the game. Of course, you're going to expect Diaz to set him up more than that, but he's got to be better on frame if he wants to take Dallas deep into the tournament.
He does. And I'm the Poseidon to Susanna's J-Mo Smooth, bringing it over, a little through ball.
Whoa, J-Mo Smooth.
Hold on. I'm making a
Kevin's got some thoughts.
Formal declaration right now. The Seattle Sounders will win absolutely nothing as long as that man continues to call himself J-Mo Smooth in public.
Okay.
That has to stop.
Hold up,
like,
though.
Immediately.
Do you know who's smoother?
Who's smoother?
Than Jordan Morris? Russ Thaler, who is getting a shout out from Arlo White. What is happening over here?
That's my guy.
You are so big time, dude.
We were like a travel couple
That's
for 18
amazing.
months, man.
I'm actually super jealous. All right, quickly, we're going to check in on this hashtag battle. Still Dallas in the lead, but Colorado sneaking up there.
I feel like there's a large portion of America that doesn't know what it's talking about.
It's getting interesting. All right, well, another big matchup today that's on the cards. We've got RSL and Sporting KC, and right now we're going to send it out to Bobby Warshaw, who is at Rio Tinto.
So guys, one of the big questions around RSL right now is Ura's health. He hasn't played 90 minutes since mid-September, nearly a month. But we were at training on Friday and he looked good. He looked fit, he looked healthy, but more so, he looked happy and energetic. But at the same time, what would you expect? It's essentially playoff time. But not only is it playoff time, when Sporting Kansas City comes to town, this game has a little extra meaning.
The matchups we've had over the years with them have been great ones, and there's always a little bit more to it when we're playing against KC. So they're in a similar position right behind us, and so they still have everything to play for as well.
Rivalry aside, today it's all about 3 points for RSL. Win, and you're in the playoffs.
All right, it's Bobby Warshaw out there in Sandy, Utah for a big matchup against the teams that have had so much history, as you mentioned, between the two of them. And for RSL, they've been undergoing this sort of transformation under Jeff Cassar from the Diamond 4-4-2 now to the 4-3-3. Who runs the show now for that team?
Yeah, I think that's kind of up for grabs, but if you're going to ask, I think their best player is Joao Plata. When he's great, they play great. But that's the thing. It doesn't feel as connected and tight as it did in the glory days from about 2008 to 2014 or so. And they still, I think, lack a little bit of identity.
Well, I think that's exactly it. They're kind of stuck between those two systems. They have Kyle Beckerman in the old Diamond system, and then they have these dynamic players up top. And I think that, yeah, it's great that they're in the transition, but you don't want to be in that transition phase at this point in the season.
Well, how about Sporting Kansas City? Could this be the last time we see SKC sort of in this iteration?
Well, if they do, obviously Dom Dwyer's going to have to come to town because I think he's got 16 goals again this year. Yeah. I think that, he's going to have to come up big for him because he's one of them players who never give defenders a moment's peace. They're going to need Dom Dwyer because there's nobody else really chipping in with enough goals.
I mean, that was an issue for them from the start of the season. I remain kind of flummoxed that they never addressed it. The other thing, Sporting Kansas City aren't as good on set pieces as they were last year, and that's been a huge issue for them.
They've made moves for this year. They brought in Brad Davis. They brought in some veteran players. It's not a young team anymore, and so it's a team that's built to win now. And I think some of the moves haven't quite paid off the way they would have hoped. A lot is on Dom Dwyer. I think when they have trouble, it's too much on his shoulders.
Yeah, we haven't even mentioned Matt Beasler.
Yeah,
what's going on with that? You got a guy who's playing for the national team and can't get a start for his club.
But when they were at their best, it was Aurelian Collin and him together putting out fires. They had that high press system, and when teams broke that, they had two guys who were intelligent, knowing when to kill the game, and they don't have that right now. So teams are able to kind of break them down across the lines, and they don't have that unison.
All right, let me push you on to another Western Conference game. Houston, coming off a spoiler performance in Seattle, has a chance to do it again with LA Galaxy. And look, they might not have some of their best players. Zardes is hurt. We don't know about Robbie Keane at this point. So Steven Gerrard out. We're not sure for how long. So Gio Dos Santos is the guy. What do you make of his explosion in the score sheet this year?
Well, one of the criticisms he's always had throughout his career is he didn't score enough goals for the talent that he has. But this year there's becoming an end product. And they've needed him because, as you say, no Jesse Zardes. Robbie Keane's been in and out. I still think that Robbie Keane is the most influential player, and they're going to need him between now.
See, I still think they're actually better when only one of Keane or Dos Santos is on the pitch. I think Dos Santos has 14 goals, and 13 of them have come when Keane has been out. And I think LA's best run of form was back in springtime when Keane was out for a few games. They're a 4-4-2 team. Dos Santos and Keane play the same position, and you got to make hard decisions.
Wait, so you're saying they're better without Robbie Keane?
I'm saying they're better without one or the other. You can bring them off the bench, Kalen.
Off the bench.
We're going to leave that in the air right now. We're just going to let you think about that for a little bit of what you just heard. Better without Robbie King. The other Western Conference game, no playoff implications between San Jose and Vancouver. So we want to know who's winning the hashtag battle. Susanna?
Oh, my God. Look who's with
Andrew
me.
Wiebe.
Oh, my bad. I was just getting my vote in. That's my penance for doubting Colorado.
You're like the epitome of social right now.
What is going on here?
Right?
Do people look at the schedule?
So we're closing it out. This is the final numbers. This is it. Did you vote?
I did vote. Shield Colorado all day long. Kevin Brown, your nefarious plans did not work. But here's the deal. Dallas has a much more difficult schedule, Susanna. They've got, you've got Seattle, and you've got LA, and you've got Champions League. Colorado's just got to win one game and see them drop it. I'm not so sure folks at home got this one
You're not
right.
with the people on this one.
No, I'm with 29% of the people.
Okay.
That's how many people I'm with.
All right, 30%. Fair enough. All right, well, right now we are going to send it to Kevin Brown, who's with the sporting director of Minnesota United, Manny Lagos.
All right, I'm here with Manny Lagos. Manny, when you're considering who to put on your team at the onset, like what sort of personality types are you looking for to fill out your roster?
Well, certainly, today with what we're doing and just really we're really trying to embrace, acknowledge a great history and legacy of soccer in Minnesota. And to honor that legacy, we want to try to find players that really believe in what we're trying to do and what we're trying to build. So it's an exciting piece for us to kind of see where we're going to go.
Now, can you confirm the rumor that anyone you select in the expansion draft gets automatic access to Prince's Paisley Park?
I will tell you this. For sure, any Minnesota United player has to know what a genius Prince was.
See, that's a good pick. Back to you, Russ.
All right, you know what? It's just about time for all that to go down. When we come back, we'll talk the Eastern Conference matchups. And yes, we're going to get Atlanta United and Minnesota United FC in the same room at the same time. We are flipping a coin, and it's going down next.
Sunday, don't miss the featured Eastern Conference battle at 3 p.m. Eastern, followed by the featured Western Conference showdown at 5 p.m. Eastern, plus live look-ins from around the league, only on ESPN.
It's about your club. It's about your city. It's about this season. It's about every match. And standing by your colors. Whatever they are, we've got you covered.
The game you love in your hand. Breaking news when it happens. All the best match highlights. Real-time stats. And live scores. Hundreds of live match streams. Follow your favorite clubs. Anywhere. Anytime. The newly designed MLS app. Download for free today.
I never thought of myself as just a soccer player. I always defined myself as much bigger than that. And now I'm getting a chance to really explore some of those interests, but still be connected to the game that will always be really important to me. Soccer in my life has been an incredible way of meeting new people and making real friendships. There are so many people that love the game. This is my opportunity to help them share their story.
And welcome back to MLS Match Day Live. Get used to the logos, everybody. Atlanta United, Minnesota United FC, starting up fresh in 2017, and it is time for the expansion priority draft. And Adrian Heath, you went through this 2 years ago with Orlando City SC and when NYCFC came into this league as well. And you got the various mechanisms to help the teams get into the league, like the expansion draft and the super draft and allocation order and everything. So how do you decide what is of priority to you?
Well, firstly, this will be the first day that they get really excited. You know, you now feel as though you're part of the MLS. So for the supporters, they'll be looking at what are we going to take? You know, do we take the expansion draft and do we take a veteran player who knows the league? Do we take allocation and bring one of the, you know, Jeff Cameron or a Tim Ream back from Europe? Or do you go and get Kyle Larin, somebody like that out of the draft who can make such a huge difference to your squad in the first year?
Yeah, and Larin maybe, Matt, was the big name to come out of the draft. Yeah. But what did Larin bring to Orlando right away in their first year?
Goals, goals, goals. And we're seeing this every year. You get a guy like Kyle Larin or Jack Harrison or Andre Blake, #1 overall. Guys like Steve Birnbaum and Kyrie Shelton, #2. Really good players, guys who will be around for a long time. You can never overlook the super draft. It's important.
By the way, who's the #1 prospect for this team?
Jeremy Ebobisse. He's a US U20 national team striker. He's already signed with MLS. He's played a bunch for Charlton in the USL. I would be shocked if one of these gentlemen do not take him #1 overall.
All right, so whichever team gets #1 when it comes to the super draft, that's a name that you expect to be going?
That's what I do. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, maybe Abu Danladi from UCLA, but I don't think so.
Throw a little caution to the wind. Yeah. Maybe a little bit of a misdirection.
Hedge my bets at least.
All right, look, let's get to it. It's time for the expansion priority draft. Susanna Collins and Kevin Brown have the dignitaries standing by.
Oh my goodness, it is time. The big moment is here. We've got Darren Eales, Manny Lagos, and Todd Durbin, MLS VP of Competition and Player Relations. He'll be doing the honors.
All right, but before we get to the flip, we got to get a nice tight shot on this commemorative coin.
This is a sweet coin.
Fun fact, this was hand engraved by Don Garber himself.
It's a good looking coin.
Expert craftsmanship.
Nice work. All right, we ready to do this?
We're ready now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to toss the coin and
hopefully
all I catch it. All right, here we go.
Live TV.
And the winner is
Oh,
Atlanta.
Atlanta. All right. Darren, you're on the clock.
We'll go for expansion draft.
Expansion draft. All right, so for this, each team gets 5 picks of current MLS players. Great way to build some roster depth. All right, Manny?
All right, Manny, it's on you.
All right, we are going to go with the super draft.
Okay, so that means Minnesota will have the first pick in the super draft. A lot of good picks have been coming early. There's also a good place to pick up someone you know who's theoretically into book reading.
All right, Darren.
We're going to go with allocation order.
Allocation order. All right, so you get first dibs on U.S. men's national team players and former MLS players. Recent example, Tim Howard. Manny.
All right, we're going to go with the NASL USL.
Oh, that's a surprise pick. So this gives Minnesota priority over Atlanta should a claim be made on a USL or NASL player at the same time or on the same day.
Oh, okay. And
Atlanta.
Darren?
We're going to go with waiver and re-entry draft.
Waiver and re-entry. All right, so this is pretty straightforward. It's just your standard waiver wire. So
that leaves that gives Minnesota priority on discovery claims. So should there be a discovery claim made in the same day with these two clubs, Minnesota wins.
You get the priority. All right, guys, best of luck.
Right,
we will see you on
December
13th for the expansion draft.
And so it all begins for Atlanta United and Minnesota United FC. Maybe they'll be in this position in the final push to the playoffs in 2017. We'll have to see. But the games are going to start in less than a half hour. ESPN has the big battle in Montreal between Montreal Impact and Toronto FC. Dan Kelly and Taylor Twellman have the call, and they file this report from Montreal.
Toronto fans relieved to see the Atomic Ant marching into Stade Saputo for this crucial late-season match against the Montreal Impact with playoff positioning on the line. Next to Taylor Twellman, I'm Dan Kelly. Welcome to Montreal, where the big question is, would Didier Drogba get the start? But now the question much larger.
Is Didier Drogba even in Montreal? That's the big question. Dan, you and I locally got here at 1:30, and obviously the big question for Mauro Biello, would you start Didier Drogba? Well, I found out, as RDS reported, due to a conflict with the organization, he's not even in the 18, and some people are telling me he's not even in Montreal. On the field, this is the right decision. Mancuso's a better option up front. Didier Drogba, Father Time has knocked on the door. He's better coming off the bench, but let's not bury the lead. You said it best. Toronto returns reigning MVP to the lineup. They're winless in their last 4 games, and a big part of that is finishing plays off. Well, what do? You introduce the reigning MVP with 16 goals, 13 assists, and he missed 6 games this year. Easily the best designated player signing in MLS history. With Josie Altidore in the best form of his career, Toronto finally will reap the benefits of their 2 best attacking players in team history this afternoon here in Montreal.
Besides MLS Cup playoffs, a ton of storylines coming up at 3 Eastern on ESPN.
All right, Dan and Taylor, you're damn straight. There's a lot of storylines coming out of Toronto. Let's start with good news for the Reds. Sebastian Giovinco, the MVP, is here. They've fallen out of the Supporter Shield race, but they still have their sights set on the top seed in the East. Getting Giovinco in the lineup means what?
Means they've got the best player in MLS back. And you only have to see the footage that everybody's seen now. The best player makes goals, score goals. Arguably, I think one of the best players to have entered the MLS in the last 10 years.
I think when he was healthy and Josie Altidore and Michael Bradley together, and of course a bunch of veterans that they've added, they were playing some of the best soccer in MLS in July and August. I expect them to get right back to that, to be perfectly honest.
Do you think he steps in seamlessly back in with Josie again? Because Josie has carried that load and he looks fresh and fit and ready to carry that himself. Do you think that Giovinco can step in after being out so long?
Two smart players, right?
Yeah.
I mean, two guys who can pass the ball, two guys who need to move off or know how to move off the ball. My question is what comes out of that midfield. Kalen, we're almost at the end of the season. I still don't know what they look like.
Well, they've had to shuffle things throughout the season due to injuries, call-ups, things like that. I think we can talk about the star players, Giovinco, of course, Josie and Bradley, but I think the big difference from last year to this year, I was at that game in Montreal where they lost 3-0 in the first round, is they've solidified the back line. They brought in Drew Moore, Beitashour, some veteran players, Irwin behind them that know how to play, know how to win in the playoffs, and I think it's made them a much more solid team.
As far as Montreal is concerned, you're talking about a team that did have that huge win in the playoffs over Toronto last year, but this Drogba deal, not even in the 18. Some question as to whether he's having an issue with management. I mean, how many ripples can this make here?
He's the biggest name, obviously, in the locker room, in the team, and arguably in the league. And when a guy like that doesn't start, you hear about it. But they've been better this year when he hasn't started because, look, you have to be a complete player, and at his age, he does not defend. And if you can get past that front line, you can set up shop in their midfield, and you can rip them apart. And teams have done that time after time after time. I think. I know I keep doing this, but I actually think Montreal's better off without this kind of headache from the start.
The interesting thing's going to be now, Matt, is what do they do from now? Is there going to be any after effect?
Well, Piatti's got to be the guy, right? Like, Piatti has to just take the reins and pick up the slack here?
And he will do, but if Drogba's still in that dressing room come Monday morning and the result's not going well this weekend, you have to be careful sometimes of what goes on afterwards. It's okay leaving him out, but you've got to think about the next few weeks. They're going to be huge for Montreal, and they're going to need somebody like him to come, cometh the hour, cometh the man.
Yeah, and until then, the man we're watching right now, Ignacio Piatti, is probably on his shoulders, right?
It is, but like he's going right at the one, I think, weak spot for Toronto FC. I still don't know who partners Drew Moore. I don't know if it's going to be Eric Zavaleta or Nick Hagland or maybe Josh Williams. All pretty decent players, but all have had pretty bad moments. If Piatti's able to get them in isolation and go at them, I think he'll have a day.
I want to turn back and talk about someone we talked about a moment ago, is Josie Altidore, maybe on the form of his life at this point. Adrian, I'm going to send you over to the board.
Yep.
Giovinco's in the lineup right now, so let's see what Altidore looks like with and without Giovinco. Andrew?
Now, Matt Doyle was wondering who's going to partner him. It is going to be Eric Zavaleta back here, but we don't want to talk about Eric right now. We want to talk about the two big boys up top, and I want you to tell me how they're complementary and why they play so well together, Coach.
Well, the most important thing is they'll keep this strong now behind the two of them, and they will let them get on with it. This guy is one of the best you'll see at getting in pockets, getting in space, in between the back four and the midfield four. And the minute that he gets round, the first thing on his mind is, can I slide Josie in? And Josie's putting good runs in behind people.
Yeah, let's take a look at what Josie's been doing lately, even without the atomic hand. I'm going to start this clip up for you, Coach, and then I'm going to pause it right here because this is where Josie Altidore wants to be, no doubt. These are the runs he wants to make, no?
Yes. Obviously, the one thing for me now is that he makes that run. He makes that run in there. He'll make runs in here. You expect Giovinco to be getting the ball in these areas. And the first thing he does is, can he slide him in?
And, of course, he does in this situation. Poor Steve Birnbaum here.
Well, he turned him inside out, but he went round the keeper. And I think the most important thing is Josie looks fit. He looks lively. But if you look at the reaction of the crowd and watch what he does afterwards, this is somebody enjoying his football. And if Josie Altidore can stay fit and enjoy his football, TFC are going to be a problem for everybody.
No doubt about that. That's what the viewers are doing right now because I'm sitting to the social desk. And, Susanna, what are the people saying?
The people are talking about our new hashtag battle, Weeby. This one, who do you guys think will win the Golden Boot? We've got hashtag Golden Boot BWP versus hashtag Golden Boot Villa. And Villa running away with it right now at 67%. So, Kevin, you gotta be a hype man for your boy BWP here. But guys, want to pivot to Philly for a second because I was there at their new training facility this week, and it's a tense atmosphere there. You can tell. I mean, they're riding that bubble. Do you think that they can find their way above the red line after this week?
Yeah, there's a lot of positive to come out of Philadelphia this season. We talked at the beginning of the show. Is getting in the playoffs good enough for these teams? Is that the baseline for Philadelphia this season? Just get in.
Yeah, absolutely. I think if they can get in, it shows progress, right? It is a big picture thing for them because they've been out for so long. How far they go, it's anybody's guess once they get in. But if they don't, if they fall short, had they had an average season and kind of teetered on a playoff position, I'd say it was a successful season. But they've been there before.
The form's pretty poor right now. What's the problem?
It is. Look, they haven't gotten any goals from CJ Sapong for a long time. I think he had 6 in his first 16 games and 1 in his last 12. That's a problem. And when you have a center forward who's doing all the hold-up work but not scoring goals, it means you have to throw numbers forward. And suddenly you have both wingers pressed way up high, and Chris Pontius is getting it done. But then you have Fabinho overlapping on the left, and Keegan Rosenberry on the right. And suddenly your center defenders are on an island defending in space against some of the great wingers in this league, and that's not a good recipe. So they're making mistakes in front of goal, and that leads to mistakes at the back. Jim Curtin's got to figure it out.
Yeah, and bigger picture, Philadelphia's still in position to get into the playoffs. It's in their hands. They could do this. What is Ernie Stewart and Jim Curtin, but Ernie Stewart specifically brought to this club?
Well, I think he's brought some stability to the club. We played there earlier on in the year, and it just felt different than it's felt at any other time. And I'm pleased for Jim because he's had a bit of uncertainty. I just think they've solved a lot of off-the-field stuff, and I think now they're looking like a proper club, and they're all pulling in the same direction and going one way.
Jim's a guy I played with in Chicago, a player's coach. I think the guys respond to him well. They do things a little differently, double days, spending time at that new facility. But I think Jim's the right guy to lead them in the playoffs.
All right, got to hit a break. When we come back, we're going to hit both New York teams. The Golden Boot up for grabs, the hashtag battle, Golden Boot BWP, Golden Boot Via, and everybody is trying to get into the playoffs so they can play for that MLS Cup.
The game you love in your hand. Breaking news when it happens. All the best match highlights. Real-time stats. And live scores. Hundreds of live match streams. Follow your favorite clubs. Anywhere, anytime. The newly designed MLS app. Download for free today.
It's about your club. It's about your city. It's about this season. It's about every match. And standing by your colors. Whatever they are, we've got you covered.
Sunday, don't miss the featured Eastern Conference battle at 3 p.m. Eastern, followed by the featured Western Conference showdown at 5 p.m. Eastern, plus live look-ins from around the league, only on ESPN.
Welcome back to MLS Matchday Live. We are in the thick of our Week 33 coverage. And you guys, if you like what you're seeing right now, stick around because at 7:30 p.m. after the games, we're going to be live again. And then we're going to do it again next week for Decision Day. So, yeah.
More and more of this.
More of this, and that's always a good thing. You know what's not a good thing? What's happening behind us?
I'm paid here to be funny, but this is the biggest joke I've seen all day. What is wrong with you people?
You need to vote more. You need to vote more,
no,
dude.
I know where they're tallying the votes, and I'm just going to fix it myself.
Well, we're asking people to get involved here on Twitter and stuff. What do you want to talk about?
I'm curious as to what's a bigger topic on these Twitter streets. Is it Heath Pierce's beautifully exposed ankle meat, or is it hate mail for Matt Doyle? Which one is He's really going off the charts.
Both are just, I mean, coming in just, it's pretty tremendous. I'm going to go with Heath's ankles, though, guys. I don't know. I don't know how you feel about that. But
See, I wouldn't even look at his ankles. I'm looking at Mars Blackman on his sweatshirt and thinking that's the coolest thing I've ever seen.
That's a dope sweatshirt.
That's awesome sweatshirt.
Thank you.
You know what's been awesome this year is NYCFC. I mean, you were so bad they fired their coach last year, and now Patrick Vieira's here, and suddenly they're in a battle for top of the East. Supporter Shield's still in play. Is this a continuation for what started with Jason Kreis, or is this a total reinvention we're talking about here?
Well, if you're going to have 3 DPs, you've got David Villa, 21 goals.
Yeah.
Frank Lampard comes in, 12 goals in 18 games. Pirlo, I think, has played 30-odd games. Big difference. They've got all 3 of them fit for most of the year. Made a huge difference.
It's not just those guys, too. You got guys like Tommy McNamara, who, for me, besides David Villa, has been their most consistent, reliable guy that Vieira's been able to really depend on. And then Jack Harrison comes in from the Super Draft, has been dynamic on the right side, really giving that team balance, and then has allowed Kyrie Shelton to now emerge off the bench, which is a better role for him, and score some big goals.
This couch has some questions about their defense, though. We worry a little bit about what they can and cannot do on set-piece defense.
I mean, one thing that I do give them credit for is having that consistency all year, that willingness to play out of the back. That can go very, very wrong. At times it has, but they're in a good position right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And that could be a good thing or a bad thing, playing out of the back. In fact, I think Andrew and Kevin are over at the touchscreen with some illustration on how it can look and sometimes maybe when it goes a little pear-shaped.
Yeah, it's the good and the bad and the ugly, Russ. And I'm going to ask you, Kevin, to close your eyes because we're going to start with the good. And I know you don't like to see too much good from the boys in blue and NYC.
I feel like this is a setup that you guys have like cherry-picked footage to actually make them look reasonable.
Yeah, well, I did this on purpose actually, and it's up to 1.25 speed too, just because it takes so long to get through some of this beauty. But this is what they want to do. They want to get past that first line of pressure. You see R.J. Allen, the man, the myth, the legend, rolling through the midfield there. I know, I see the skepticism, but goal. That's the way it goes down when it's good.
Sure, if you want to rely on the most inconsistent unit on your team, if you think that's the way to move going forward, by all means.
I'll hit play on that if we're going to go to the ugly. And this is what can happen, and this is a Steve Clark-esque moment here.
This is good, realistic NYCFC soccer. Look at this. This is art. That's beautiful.
Josh Saunders off the knees. That's the good and the bad. It can go either way. Goals for, goals against. Let's send it back to the guys to talk a little DC United.
Kevin Brown is so Metro. Look, DC United come in as one of the hottest teams in the league. They've one loss since July 13th, but they got a bit of a bugaboo when it comes to NYCFC. They haven't been able to beat them this year.
That one loss was to NYCFC. DC dominated that game for about 75 minutes and then completely fell apart over the last 15. It was just silly mistakes at the back. But I think if DC come into this game and play the way they have been playing in that 4-1, and get the kind of productivity that they've gotten out of their wingers, they are one of the teams to really, really reckon with in the East.
Who'd have thought they'd had the impact that Patrick Mullins has had for them?
Oh, yeah.
Just come in and give them, not only a target, but goals. Lamar Nagel started. So, they, as per DC normally, they come in on a roll at the right time.
Yeah, Patrick Mullins, wait, I got a question for Adrian because he's playing against a team that, pretty much didn't have use for him. Do you use that as motivational tactic? If you're Ben Olsen, do you go to Patrick Mullins and say, these guys didn't think you were anything?
Exactly. And I know everybody who plays football, when you go against your old club, it means something more to you. And he'll be incredibly motivated for the game today.
Isn't that kind of the spirit of this team? I mean, nobody thinks anything of DC United anyways, and they've been one of the hottest teams in the league. They don't have the big-name stars, but they're getting it done and getting production from guys like Patty Nyarko and Lamar Nagel that are really hurting teams.
Rob Vincent, who was in the USL last year.
He was killing it in the USL last year.
Right, and they've had to go down their depth chart fullbacks as well. They still get a lot of their personality, though, from that central defense.
Why don't people learn? Because every year it's the same story with DC United. Doubt these guys. They grind out victories, but yet they never get love at the beginning of the year, it seems ever.
Acosta's done really well for them as well.
Yeah.
Come into the team and give them a lift, give them a spark. Makes things happen in the final third.
Yeah, let me just cut you off. We got to get to the social lounge right now because we got an update on the Golden Boot battle, on the hashtag battle. What do you got?
It's not going well for you, Kevin.
No, this is match fixing.
It's not. Via's running away with this thing.
Yeah, there's voter suppression.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I'm not saying I know who's responsible, but I don't want to get into that now. This is like a family thing, and it's like a joyous occasion. I don't want to do that.
All right, we can play safe. Can I show you guys something cool though? We're getting love from big names here. Look at this. Look at Ian. Ian Joy is really enjoying our coverage. So well done, everybody. Pat yourselves on the back.
Fantastic on the Bundesliga.
Validation.
Feel good about yourselves.
Yeah.
Yes.
Good stuff. Thanks, Ian. Appreciate it. Okay, let's talk about the Red Bulls. Okay, you cool with that, Kevin? We talk some Red Bulls?
As long as you do it correctly, yeah.
All right. Okay, you know what? I'm going to do BWP. We're going to talk BWP. You cool with that?
Yeah. I'll allow
because a lot of people thought he was just a guy who latched onto the end of beautiful Thierry Henry passes, but apparently he's more than that.
He's a star. He's a legitimate star, and he could win his second Golden Boot in 3 years if Kevin keeps voting anyway. But I think the MVP of that team is Sasha Kljestan. I think he's the one who gives the team their personality. He's the one who drives the game forward, and he's one of the most brilliant passers in the league, and I don't think has gotten enough credit for it.
BWP is streaky, and he was dry earlier in the year, but his streaks last a long time. And so for me, he's the star of this team. He is the guy that, again, got the criticism early in the year for not scoring we've got some Red Bull fans in the house, but he got the criticism. But once he hits his stride, he is very, very good. And of course, Sasha Kljestan.
The thing, BWP doesn't mind if he misses. He'll just go back and he'll do it again and again and again, and that's the mark of a good striker.
Who's the MVP of this team, though?
For me, it's Sasha.
Sasha Kljestan.
Yeah. I love the way that Sasha plays. I think he's underrated. I love that little triangle of Dax McCarthy and Felipe. They get the ball to him as early as possible. Mm-hmm. He's always in little space. And then his first look is, where's Bradley Wright Phillips? You could do a highlight reel of just them two getting together.
To me, Sasha's the MVP of the league. I think he's been the most consistent, the best player throughout. I know BWP, they'll say he splits the vote, but I think if you ask BWP, who's been giving him the goals and what's making this team tick, it's him. And then the other piece is Dax, I think, is huge. He's a winner, first and foremost. He's going to help this team so much. He's also their most dangerous player on set pieces. He's a matchup nightmare, and I think he's the guy that they're going to depend on in the playoffs to really give them that personality to get them over the hump.
And Sasha does great on set pieces. His delivery is right on the money every single time.
And they have a whole bag of tricks, but I have questions about New York, not only because they've conceded some late leads, but they're not getting the productivity from the wings that they had last year. Alex Mule, only 1 goal this year. Mike Grella, I think, one goal since June. Verone hasn't quite done it when he's been on the wing.
And Lloyd Sam is the guy that they let go, who's now with DC United and being productive with that team as well. One more game in the East. It's Chicago and New England. The Revs need a win to stay in playoff contention. If they get that win today, and if Montreal happens to fall at home to Toronto, that sets up a decision day game at Foxborough. It's a win and in, or lose and go home between those two teams. Should be interesting. And that is the crux of decision day. So if you don't have a rooting interest, maybe that's, something to just keep an eye on as we go along. But we're keeping an eye on all these games today. So we're going to get to some predictions. All right, I'm going to go around the horn. Just give me who's going to win. Doesn't have to take that long. For all of them, we're going to start in the Eastern Conference with the game on ESPN. Coming up at the top of the hour, it is Montreal and Toronto. Who you got?
I think Toronto's going to go to Montreal and get it done. I think they win.
I'm going with Montreal.
Okay, Montreal at home without Drogba in the 18. Who do you got?
The atomic ant is back. Toronto.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on in that Montreal locker room, but sometimes moments like this can galvanize a team. I think they get it done at home.
All right, Red Bulls fighting for that top spot in the Eastern Conference, still with a chance at the Supporters' Shield. Red Bulls and Columbus Crew.
Red Bulls.
Red Bulls.
Red Bulls.
I think the Red Bulls will win, but watch out for Ethan Finlay. He torments New York.
All right, how about the other team going for New York glory? NYCFC on the road at DC United.
I'm going with NYCFC because I've gone against them all year and they've always proved me wrong.
I'm going with DC. I don't rule them out at this time of year. They find a way.
DC
at home. In front of a big crowd expected to be in DC today. But sold out at Saputo in Montreal for a long time. Mm-hmm. And DC's expecting over 30,000 for this game today. You think they're going to give those fans?
Yeah, RFK is going to be rocking. I actually love playing there as a player.
All right, we got New England and Chicago. New England need a win.
Yeah, New England, get it done.
New England have to win, will win.
Okay.
New England.
Yeah, New England on the road, yeah.
All right. Hey, by the way, let me just go off script for a second. If you're out in Lot 8 at DC, there is a bone marrow registry going on for Big Robert Gillespie, huge Barra Brava DC United fan, friend of mine, friend of the team. He needs your help. If you're out in Lot 8 watching this or at home, go get yourself checked. All right, so put that in there. All right, let's talk about the Western Conference games, okay? Starting with the ESPN matchup, Portland and Colorado. Who you got?
I think Portland get it done at home.
I agree. Portland win this game.
Colorado's got a chance to win the Shield with some help.
No, but when you have to win, you're at home, second best away home record in the country.
Picking Colorado to go to MLS Cup, but I'm Portland in this one.
All right, interesting. Okay, how about RSL and Sporting Kansas City?
I think RSL at home. I get done.
Me too. RSL.
RSL.
Tough place to play, RSL.
It's a draw. I don't think either of these teams are firing right now.
It should be interesting. Seattle and Dallas.
Oh, this is a tough one, but I'm a little concerned about Seattle, so I picked Dallas in this one.
Because of Ozzie Alonso?
Yeah, because of Ozzie Alonso, and because I don't think they've been the same attacking team without Clint Dempsey.
Okay.
Since Seattle started this whole streak, I've jumped on the bandwagon. I've got them going deep and a win today.
I think it'll be a tie.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, last one.
I agree with the coach because I just, I admire him, so I'm going with the tie.
All right, LA, Houston.
Oh, next question. That's not a friendly. Yes, that's not a friendly matchup for me.
Yeah, here's any quick answers.
LA.
I think Houston get it done at home.
Okay, let's go to the social lounge one time. Suzanne and Kevin, there seems to be some movement.
God. No, I'm doing my part here for my guy Kevin because it was BWP in the lead at 51, and now it's just switched. And so I'm
we got a country
tweeting.
full of Ken Bones here who can't make up their mind.
Oh my God, you guys keep tweeting. Send it back to you, Russ.
All right, guys. Suzanne and Kevin, thank you very much. Matt Doyle, Heath Pierce, Adrian Heath, Kaylin Carr, thank you so much for joining us for MLS Matchday Live. Join us again at 7:30 for the post-game show. Check out MLSsoccer.com for all the coverage. MLS Live has all the rest of the games besides the ESPN matchups. Toronto at Montreal coming up next, followed by Portland versus Colorado. We'll see you on the post-game show. We'll see you on Decision Day, and we'll see you on MLSsoccer.com. Thanks, everybody. Enjoy the games.